everybody. Very good. What we are doing today is we are going to...
We're all from the South. We're all from the South. We got fear people and we're not afraid to stand our ground.
All right. We had something big take place this week. Martin Luther King Jr. Day on the 20th, as well as the presidential inauguration.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, big stuff.
Yep.
Super big. It's like double big.
Double big. Did anybody have the opportunity to take part in any of the festivities, meaning from a distance? Did you watch it on TV? Did you get to see the speech? Did you get to see the swearing in or anything like that?
Over and over again.
I've seen bits and pieces. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but yeah, obviously since then I've seen some bits and pieces of it, and it was everything I've seen was very, very positive, and is making me feel more and more optimistic about.
I celebrated in true patriot fashion by working that day.
Yep, I was working as well. I had it on my YouTube TV going as much as possible. So it was, that's one of those things that you want to witness live. Yeah, you can go back, you can watch some replays, you can catch it on the news, catch some clips and everything. But to me, it just means a little more if you can watch it live, kind of like a sporting event. I have no interest I don't have any interest in recording a football game that I want to watch and then going back and watching it later. No, I want to watch it live. Presidential inauguration, especially this one, I want to watch it live.
I really enjoyed the prayers.
Prayers were good.
And to me, the diversity of the people that spoke and sang and were there and prayed, the whole diversity of it.
Yeah, they had, see how many people, were there 3 or 4 different prayers that were offered?
Was it at least? I can only remember 3. There may have been 4, but I can only remember 3.
Yeah, I think it was 3. Yeah, representing many versatility on the Christian faith. There, really good. Did you notice that he didn't have the opportunity to place his hand on the Bible?
Somebody else brought that. My girls actually brought that up, and I was like, "What, really?" And I had to go back and look at it, and sure enough,
John Roberts kind of shot he got started out of that. I mean, he didn't give a chance for his family to come down and stand around. Melania had to kind of inch herself way down there. By the time she got there with the Bible, I mean, he already started, and at that point, I'm sure he's not thinking about it.
I mean, I can only imagine, like, when you're say if you're speaking at church or something like that, you got a little bit of nervousness to you and everything like that. I mean, I don't care how big a shot you are and where you've been before, it's got to be a pretty big deal, pretty big moment, and it wouldn't surprise me that you're jumping the gun or you're not checking all the boxes and stuff like that. And I mean, sometimes if you've been like me, you've had like something really big that you've stretching yourself to do or whatever, and then you walk away from it like, what just happened? And you're like, when you're driving home on drone mode, and you're like, oh, I'm home already.
Yeah. Carrie Underwood pulled off a great acapella version of America the Beautiful. Was supposed to have some accompanying music, but that failed, and she killed it a cappella. That was pretty cool.
I thought Taylor Swift was going to sing with her, but I didn't see her.
She's in Canada.
I loved all of the kids, man. Like that, I don't remember seeing a presidential inauguration with as many of the children and grandchildren there, just like being like JD Vance's kids,
right?
Or just being kids, and it was just something. It's kind of like being in sacrament service, and if how the kids are just sometimes they'll just run around and run down the aisle, or if their parents and the fathers in the bishopric, they might run up there in the middle of sacrament and just sit on the dad's lap or something. It's kind of how JD Vance's kids, they were just kind of being kids and being so cute, and like Donald Trump, one of his granddaughter, gosh, what's her name? Like Kaya, I think,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
a pretty popular YouTuber, you know, teenager. And like she, you know, she did, you know, videos about the whole thing about the inauguration. She had her friends with her there, and it really, it stands out to me how much of a family man Donald Trump is, and like how, you know, he's got so many grandchildren, and to them he's just grandpa, you know, like it's just like grandpa's president of the United States again. Look how cool this is, you know. And it's just, everything is so family centered and wholesome and good, and just really, really impressive. And I really liked, also, I shared a clip from Trump's speech, about his message to Black and Hispanic Americans, because
So they wouldn't forget
obviously
him. Yeah.
he a big part of his victory was that Black and Hispanic Americans voted for him in record numbers.
Yeah.
You know, as far as Republican candidates, I don't, you know, it's been many, many, many years since.
Well, and the Amish. Don't
Republican.
forget the Amish voted in record numbers.
Yeah, the Amish did too. But yeah, I really liked his comments, though, about, especially directed directly toward Black and Hispanic Americans, you know, about how, you know, it's he had a message of unity, you know, that he wants to be the president of all people, you know, represent all people, and he's not just looking out for certain groups, or, you know, this group or that group, or, you know, the protected group, or the group that he likes. Is like, and that's one of the things that really irked me about Barack Obama. You know, when he came into office, when he was supposed to be the great uniter, he was, you know, touted it. He was the one that was going to bring everybody together. And he was the most divisive president of my lifetime, I think, man. He was just so, you know, just every time there was anything happening in the culture, he was picking sides, and, you know, well, these people are wrong and these people are right. And, you know, like if you're a parent, you know, you can't do that with your kids, you know. I mean, you have to sit them all down and say, listen, okay, I love all of you, you know, let's work this out. Let's, you know, you don't pick like which kids are the bad kids and the good kids, you know. And that's something that I think Trump is very much focused on, and trying to unite Americans, and focus on unity, and focus on the things that we have in common, and focus on the policies that are going to benefit all Americans, regardless of our race or gender or religion or any other identifying factors.
I think you hit something there with, so if you go back and listen to Obama's, it was his speech that really got him on the radar as a senator. It was the Democratic National Convention speech, and he spoke, I mean, patriotic speech. From what I recall, it was, we don't have blue states and red states, we have the United States. I mean, it sounds great, and he delivers it great. I mean, he's an orator for sure, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Smooth, and just the voice, everything.
Smooth operator.
Yeah, that's right. But the thing is, to your point, like once he became president, it seemed like everything got more divided, right? So then here we have Trump, and if I'm honest, he's not my favorite person to listen to speaking. He just does not have that quality for me of a great speaker. But the things he's saying, the ideas he's transmitting, regardless of how it's delivered, is what we're needing. It's what we're looking for. And he's shown an ability to do that. Like, you got to think, like, they painted him literally connecting him with Hitler, and yet he wins more of the vote. He wins the popular vote. He wins all the swing states.
Yeah,
correct. He sets records with the minority groups that supposedly should hate him the most. So he has that ability to unify. So I think that's an amazing thing. And then, you know, you mentioned the family nature and stuff like that. And he mentioned, you know, that God spared his life. And I think that is a powerful thing, in that in this day and time, there are a lot of fractured families. So as much as there is this family feel there, you still, I mean, you know, full transparency here, Trump's got a pretty bad record when it comes to marriages and family man type of stuff. However, there's a pathway forward to better times, to being unified, to having a family focused, even if your family is fractured, right? And he's showing that. He's showing the way, and he's up there to tell you God spared his life and giving God credit. And even if his hand wasn't on the Bible, he sure mentioned the things of the Bible quite a bit. So I think that's another unifying thing, to show this country full of fractured families, there's a path forward.
Well, he's not a great orator, but he is a modern Moses.
Yeah.
I mean, look what Moses accomplished, and he was a terrible orator.
Right.
Said to the Lord, "Why are you calling me? Oh, don't worry about it. I'll let you have Aaron. Aaron will tell you. Aaron will talk for you." And Moses, and probably by far one of the greatest of the prophets ever.
We talked in last week's episode about Trump being the tragic hero or the anti-hero.
He did say that he wants, part of his legacy, he wants to be remembered as a peacemaker,
right?
And kind of throughout the world, So I think he really wants that.
I think he has the ability.
Well, and sometimes peacemakers have to carry big sticks.
That's right. Peace through strength, right?
Yeah, that's what Rubio was transmitting that same message, I think, today, was saying that the United States wants to be in the center of any peace deal, any peace talk, but it's not going to be pushing us around at our expense, kind of thing.
Right.
So
that kind of leads me into just a couple of policy topics. Number one, thoughts on his closing stance on closing the border. Finish building the wall. Shut down. I mean, so they showed video of the morning of the inauguration, people coming across as quick as they could through the legal port entry, not coming through legally, but they were, I guess, as legal as possible, where they go through and set up their future court dates or what have you.
They're asylum seekers.
There you go. Yeah, asylum seekers. Thank you. And so, I mean, they were coming through as quick as they could, and then as soon as Trump signed that executive order, they shut it down. And they showed people on the street, before that, crying and everything and stuff. So that plays on your hearts, because there are a lot of people who are truly seeking a better life and a better opportunity, and that opportunity does rest in America. Go ahead. I was just going to say, but at the same time, there has to be law and order to that. We want people, and as many people as possible, to come across and seek and obtain that better life, but do it the right way.
Weak leadership invites pain and suffering. So leaders in the position of being a leader, you not only are being held, you will not only be held accountable for what you do, but you will be held accountable for what you don't do. And if you do not maintain law and order in a process, a fair and just process, then people take advantage of it. And when people take advantage of it, people get hurt immediately, and then the pendulum swings the other way, and now the people that you in mind had that you were helping out by letting them through, you're hurting them in the long run, because now the system is broken. Now you shut it all down,
or you're bringing the wrong people in, right?
Correct.
That don't want to come over for an opportunity. They want to come over to take advantage. And I think the thing to keep in mind is, even though we're building the wall, I hate the term we're closing the borders. The borders are not closed.
Good point.
They're open to everyone to come in the right way. Just like the kingdom of God is not closed. It's not. And his arms are stretched forward. But if you're going around shooting everybody, or punching everybody in the face, you're not going to make it to the kingdom of God. You have to repent of those things, right? You have to become a better person, a different person. You have to strive to be better. Same thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's what I mean. When you don't follow, as a leader, if you don't enforce the rules, you don't respect the rules, then those rules get taken advantage of, and the wrong sorts come through, and then they're hurting people immediately now. And then that causes a public outcry to shut it down and then no one gets across, or all the people you thought you were going to help get across, the people who really just are looking for a better life, now they can't, because now we've got to be strict and shut everything down for a time until you can get this figured out, and then make everyone go through that process. You can't take them at the word that they're seeking asylum anymore. They're going to have to stay in Mexico and do that asylum seeking paperwork and court dates and so on and so forth. So,
because if we don't, then the asylum seekers won't have a place to seek asylum for.
Correct.
Or to, right?
That's right.
You won't have a place to go to. You won't have a better place to go to.
Right.
That's correct.
Yeah. If we don't have borders, if we don't have clear borders, we don't even have a country.
Right.
You know, there has to be, and you know what? I just had a thought. It reminds me of the what's called the blood-brain barrier in our bodies. So there's, you know, when you take different drugs and things into our bodies, there is like, for example, Imodium AD. A lot of people don't know. Imodium AD is an opioid. You know that. Joe knows that. Yeah. I learned that when I took psychopharmacology, and I was like, well, that's interesting. Like it's an antidiarrheal, because, you know, one of the side effects of opiates is, you know, the constipation. And so Imodium AD is an opioid, but its molecular structure is such that it does not cross the blood-brain barrier. So you don't get any of the psychological effects or analgesic effects. The only effect you get is the effect on the gut, the side effect, because it doesn't cross. Our bodies know what is healthy for our brains and not. So there's you can make the decision to drink any poison or take any drugs or any substances into your body, but your body is going to make the choice of what it's going to allow into the brain or not. And our bodies are very selective about which molecules it allows to cross that blood-brain barrier into the brain. And I kind of feel like we have to be that way. For our brains to be healthy, it has to be that way. And for our nation to be healthy, we need to be a little selective. We can't just allow anybody and everybody to come pouring in, because there's a lot of good people that are seeking a better life. There's a lot of people also, though, that are seeking to take, like we talked about, that are take advantage of the system. And, you know, they don't have benevolent intentions. So,
yeah. Policy number 2 that he brought up. Kenny's going dark on us.
Yeah, I see that. And the light has left Kenny.
Just unplugged one of my lights.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let him get squared away.
Saints in the South, Kenny Unplugged edition.
That's right.
That's right. There we go. I'm back.
There we go. Kenny's back. Yeah. So number 2. So he said that, can't remember the exact verbiage, but basically he said that from now on, another executive order, government will only recognize 2 genders, male and female.
Yeah.
Was there more than that? I didn't.
Like I said, he said the government was recognizing more than the 2, but with Biden. Yeah. So he's bringing that to an end.
But if you think about it, people treat it that his antagonist would say that he's doing this new thing, and the reality is, up till about 10 years ago, that's the way it's always been on every document from federal government, whatever, passports, driver's license, whatever, Social Security. It's male, female,
through all of human history.
Right. 10 years ago, we got this weird thing coming. That's the new thing. This isn't new. So this is a restoration of how it was.
So does with him saying that, so does that mean whenever I go to renew my license or what have you, that there's only going to be 2 options, male, female? There's not going to be an other or something like that. Is that what he's basically doing?
The only caveat to that is driver's licenses are a state issued thing.
Okay, so right. Okay, but anything federal government related will only have the male female option.
Male female. That's right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's
be interesting to see. It reminds me of this isn't completely relevant, okay, but it reminds me of one of the favorite lines in Fiddler on the Roof. He's what's the guy's name? Fabio? What's the dad's name? Well, it doesn't matter. He's talking to one of his daughters, and he's explaining to her, the difficulty, because she wants to marry someone that's not of the faith, not of the Jewish faith. And he says, a bird may love a fish, but where will they build a home?
Yep.
It's good,
right?
That's
and
good.
So the reason I bring that up is because you can go all day and try to say that there's more than two genders and there's more than just male and female and blah blah blah. But I'm telling you, you work with any plumbing, any pipe fittings, anything electrical. This cord may say, "Hey, I identify as female," but there's only one way it's going to plug in. It doesn't matter how it identifies. It's either male or female, and this other one is either male or female, and they're either going to plug in together or they're not.
Right.
No matter how they identify.
That's right.
Yeah. Plus, I think we've gotten so far away from nature. Most, up until recently, most Americans were farmers. Like that was small farms were what produced all of the food for the country, and now it's, I think, like 100 years ago, something like 80% of Americans were farmers. Now it's something like 3% or whatever. There's very few farmers that have large farms that are producing large amounts of food. So most people are far removed from farm life, where you're dealing with animals, and when you're dealing with cattle and chickens and goats and everything else, it's very, very clear that there's two sexes, and they both serve a purpose. They're both very different, not just in their quote unquote plumbing, but they're very, very different, and so it's one of these things that's just been common sense, basically, that humans have just understood for a millennia, as long as humans,
from the beginning of time.
The beginning of time, exactly. Yes, up until just a few years ago, and then just a few years ago, some fancy university professors came up with some harebrained ideas about sex and gender, and it seeped into the culture, and I personally think it's caused a lot of harm.
It's the whole between Marx and Hegel idea, right? It's the Marxian idea of tearing down what presently exists because you want to replace it with something else, and then you use the Hegelian dialect or whatever to where you have the, what is it, where they kind of establish what it is, then they throw out there this crazy thing that completely is 180 degrees opposite, and then you shake everything up, and then you go, okay, well, we'll settle for somewhere in the middle, or we'll just settle for 25%. But what you don't realize is you don't settle in the middle of male female. Like it just is. It's always been and always will be. There's no compromise on that. So anything, and then that's the thing, they do that and then they do it over and over and over again until you've completely shifted and changed whatever the culture is, whatever the power structure is. That's how you attack it, so. Yeah,
there was some really good actually discussion in one of the Facebook groups I'm in. It's a group of it's for mental health. It's a critical thinking mental health professionals, so there's a lot of mental health professionals who have different views on things and come together and discuss it. And there was some comments there, and I made the point, my opinion, and this is just my opinion, is that 20, 30, maybe 50 years, at some point in the near, not too distant future, all the trans butchery that we're seeing today, as far as 13-year-old girls getting double mastectomies, and boys having their genitals cut off and all this other kind of stuff in the name of their sexual identity, will be viewed in the same way that we view lobotomies today. Lobotomies were very popular for a period of time. You know, that was the magical cure-all for in the mental health industry. If you had a child that was a little bit too rambunctious, you take them to the doctor and they shove an ice pick up into their eye and they move it around, and bam, then your child's calm and cooperative for the rest of their life. They're docile. You know, it changed people's personality. It made people from crazy, you know, whatever, into these docile things. But now we understand that lobotomies literally destroy the prefrontal cortex of the brain. You know, you've destroyed the identity of that person. The reason that they were docile and easy to control is because you took away their capacity for higher level thinking. And today, you know, lobotomies seem so barbaric. You know, to most people, the thought of what they did was just like, oh my gosh. And this wasn't that long ago. You know, we're talking 50, 60 years ago. These things were still happening. Yeah. And I truly believe that within a few decades, the stuff that we're experiencing now is going to be viewed the same way that we view lobotomies now. People are going to look back and they're going to say, my gosh, what were these people thinking? They thought it was okay to do this.
Wow. Like, you know what, Kenny? I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
Yeah. I believe it will. I believe with all my heart that's going to come a point where we're going to come out of this madness, and people are going to look back and shake their heads and go, holy cow. Like, how could people go along with this? You know?
Yeah. Did y'all see, so kind of maybe moving just a little bit, with the two policies that I mentioned, did you see the sermon and the preaching too that Trump received from the bishop?
Yeah, from the one that kind of came out in dissent.
Yeah. So this
the dissenting voice.
They always have a church service the day after inauguration. Right. So I'll share this here real quick. Where's my volume at?
I saw the Babylon Bee article about this.
Please, Mr. President, millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meatpacking plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land. May God grant us the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, to speak the truth to one another in love, and walk humbly with each other and our God for the good of all people in this nation and the world. Amen.
Any thoughts there?
Speak the truth in
Adams,
love. That's a big one. I think that one kind of it didn't serve her purpose in the way that she might have thought, because when you speak the truth in love, sometimes when you love people and you are honest with them, you're going to have to say things to them that they might not like in the moment or might make them uncomfortable.
It might feel hurtful.
It might feel hurtful. It might it reminds me of there was a time I had a friend years ago who was going through a horrible divorce, and found someone that was having a relationship with that was comforting to them, and I had to have a conversation with him, said, look, I'm happy for you that you found some comfort, but you're still legally married, and as such, this relationship isn't good. This is adultery, what you're doing, and it can be hard, man. It can be hard to talk to people about things that way, and obviously there's someone who understood and kind of shared these values. Obviously, if you're talking to someone that doesn't believe in those values, then it's not going to be helpful. But for example, if it was one of us, if one of us was going through a bad divorce and was having an intimate relationship with someone before our divorce was finalized, I mean, I would hope that we would love each other enough to sit down and say, brother, this isn't the way to go. This is not the right path. It can be difficult.
Love, true love is whoa.
I'm sorry. That's immediately where my mind went when you said
I didn't even hear it until you laughed.
I'm sorry,
I was
Joe.
Like, oh yeah. No, that's good. But no, so true love doesn't sacrifice the future you for the present you. So what you want right now doesn't surmount what you can be in the future, your future happiness. So if you sacrifice that future happiness for what you want right now, you're going to be miserable later. And someone who truly loves you will tell you that I know this is what you feel like you want right now, and it is what you want right now. But what you really need is to forego this thing right now, because you're going to be a lot happier later. Someone who loves you will tell you that. And I think that's the tough conversation that people need to have with a lot of these things, whether it's immigration, do it the right way, whether it's your gender or sexual identity or preferences or whatever, that you may have tendencies, you may have feelings, but here's hard conversation. You give into these things now, you're going to be a lot unhappier later.
Yeah.
That's a tough conversation. But the other thing I wanted to point out to her, the thing that came to my mind was a quote by Adam Smith, where he said, mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent.
Mm-hmm.
So she points out these, what about, and oh man, it hits me. I mean, I'm sure I made a face, because even though I might not have said anything, my face has still got closed caption turned on. When she said, the people that pick our crops and they do our laundry and all this other stuff. And I was like, oh, I don't know that I would, you want to keep your cheap labor? That's the argument here.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like the old South.
Exactly. That's exactly it. That's the Democrats 100 years ago said, well, who's going to pick our cotton without the slaves? And the Democrats today have the same argument. Well, who's going to pick our crops without the illegals?
Did you see the lady on the finish your thought, Joe?
Oh, I was just going to say that if that's the basis of your argument, you can't. I have a hard time with you coming across from the moral perspective. But you choose these people, the people who are in fear. Is it a valid fear, or is it fear that's been ginned up by these agencies, these media agencies and stuff like that? And fear is very much subjective, right? So is it fear? What about Laken Riley, who was murdered at a major university here in our own state? Amen. What about her fear? What about the fear of the parents that are sending their kids to these schools in states that are sanctuary states, never mind sanctuary cities? What about their fears? You're completely ignoring them. And so, this overlooking, who's actually at fault here. Is it the sharecropper? I mean, the person picking the crops that Trump is going after right now? No. Is it within their purview? Sure. But I think they have a lot higher targets on their list than those people.
And he said
mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent. And when you don't differentiate those two, then you are being cruel. You may act like you're the person that's loving because of the words you use, because of the feelings that you address, but you are being cruel, very cruel.
Exactly. Like if you're an enabler or a codependent and you're not helping that person who's an addict, really, you think you're helping them by giving them the stuff that's killing them. That's not true. That's not mercy. That's not love. The other thing too was, I thought that was, I can't think of the right word because it's not a racial slur. That's not what I'm trying to say. And maybe you guys can think of the right word, but how dare she say, individualize all these people as the low life people, picking crops and washing dishes. Really? That's where you're going. You're actually sounding very racial and pointing your finger that
who's the racist.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And the other thing too that hit me was, and I'm not, it just sounded like a very political, liberal, left-wing prayer or speech that she gave. But where was all this when us conservatives were concerned, when we were scared, when we got a Democrat president or a liberal president who was up there saying at that time, hey, you ought to talk about all the people that are scared right now because you're in office. Where was that prayer? Right. It's just so two-faced.
Think about all the kids now that have been lost to the government's purview or whatever, that are now for all intents and purposes lost, perhaps being trafficked. Who knows? No one can say. What about them? What about their fears? What about their treatment that could have been, that their current just catastrophe could have been avoided by some leadership? Exactly. What about that?
And I really liked what you guys said too about, you were talking about how you may have feelings to do something, and that may be how you feel right now, but don't trade that for a future better. Right. So I can't remember exactly how you phrase that. Yeah. I mean, to me, that's with anything. I mean, you have these people that try to say, no, listen, they really want to be a different gender and we should help them do that. Really? I really want to punch you in the face and tear your throat out, but no one's encouraging me to do that. I mean, that would be unthinkable for someone to encourage me to do that and go with my feelings, right? No, we're taught by a loving Heavenly Father to bridle our passions. We're taught to obey the commandments for a reason, right? All that is because of perfect love that our Heavenly Father has for us, because He knows that we will have a better future, a brighter future, a happier future if we put off the silliness of the right now and follow these commandments, and then the reward will be tremendous and our happiness will be so much more.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much transgenderism you have within the Amish community.
Oh, I bet they have a ton of not any.
I bet it's probably close to zero.
Oh, it's probably a ton of zero.
Yeah, a ton of zero. Yeah. Yeah, because they're cut off from all of the crazy propaganda that
exactly. Nobody's feeding their brain with the nonsense.
So are you are familiar with the show The View?
Yes.
Yeah. So
everybody's heard of it. I've never watched it, and I'm proud to say that
you've seen clips and stuff. Joy.
Oh yeah, you watch the clips, Kenny, sometimes.
I've seen little clips here and there. Yeah,
I love to watch the. I know. I hope this is where Jackson's going, but I love to watch the clips when they're like put in their place.
Yeah.
So this lady, I don't know. I think it was. I don't know which lady it was.
There's no ladies on that show. I don't know.
Well, yeah. So they're arguing about the border situation and everything. And she come out and she says, who who's going to clean your toilets now, Mr. Trump? You know, and there was a because they were talking about Puerto Ricans, and there was a Puerto Rican lady that was a guest there, and the Puerto Rican was like, she was like, "Whoa, hold on a second now," and she was like, "Oh, you know, I don't mean it that way and stuff."
Oh, yes,
but actually, you do. You do mean it that way.
Right.
And anyway, it was just like, because that and it's the same thing that that lady's the bishop there talking about the crops and washing dishes and stuff.
It's
exactly.
They describe it as the soft bigotry of low expectations.
Exactly.
Like,
I was just thinking this.
You're one of the
exactly.
lowly
I was about
ones.
to say that same phrase. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. I will say this. This was one of the things that, you know, when Trump started talking about it, I was like, ooh, my eyebrows went up, and I was like, ooh. He was talking about that the U.S. will be expanding its territories. And I was like, what? I don't know that that's a good path to go down. But then the very next thing he talked about was basically going to Mars and planting the flag on Mars. And I was like, oh, okay, I think I could go along with that. You're not taking land from anybody.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Well, I think we are. I think we're going to start with the Gulf of Mexico. It's going to become the Gulf of America.
The Gulf of
Gulf
America.
of America. Yeah. He said that.
He did mention it. Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
And Greenland actually is very likely to become a U.S. territory because
it was for
Greenland
sale once, wasn't it, Kenny? Wasn't
What?
it for sale at a time?
Well, the thing is, okay, so here's the situation. Greenland has been under the rule of Denmark for years.
Yeah.
Greenland despises Denmark. Greenland wants nothing to do with Denmark. Greenland the people of Greenland are doing everything they can to pull away from Denmark. And
to be autonomous, right?
Discussions, there's been talks about the United States purchasing Greenland for decades. I mean, this isn't a new idea. This is something that's been going on for a long time. And it's something that from what I understand, from what I've heard, most people in Greenland are completely 100% on board with this and would love for the United States to purchase Greenland and for Greenland to become a territory of the United States.
Right.
Because as a territory of the United States, they would enjoy all of the benefits. You know, all the territories of the United States right now enjoy all the benefits of statehood other than being able to vote in presidential elections. So you would have the military protection of the United States, the economic protection of the United States. The people, the territories of the United States right now, you don't hear them complaining.
That's right.
I've never heard of a single territory of the United States saying we need to get away from the United States. This you know, being part of the U.S. is just not a good deal for us. Like, no, it's the opposite.
Hey, so I got that clip pulled up. I'm going to share it real quick here.
Clip it up.
Yeah, Kelly Osbourne. She was actually a guest on there at the time as well. So
if you kick every Latino out of this country, then who is going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?
Oh, that's no.
In the sense that, you know what I mean? Like, when I'm saying
there's more jobs to be
in LA, they always
but
they
Latinos are not only the only people.
I didn't mean it like that. Come on. No, I would never mean it like that. Okay. Like, I'm not part of this.
Of course not.
I think what you're saying is that Trump himself
he needs to look out
probably
his window and
relies on a
realize
lot of these people that he's insulting.
Woo! Wow.
Right.
Oh, that's so cringe.
Yeah.
That's so cringe.
But I mean, in the same
Who's
token,
going
so
to clean your toilet now, Mr. Trump?
Yeah.
Wow.
What they really mean to say is who's going to pick my fruits and vegetables, who's going to clean my toilets, who's going to nanny my children and all that type of stuff. Yeah, who's gonna be roofing houses for my husband's contracting business. Yeah. I mean, it's
who's
very
going to be coming to my house as an adjuster?
That's right. Exactly.
Right.
All right. Well, hey, we're going to be doing a hard stop at an hour and a half. We have 2 minutes left. Any closing thoughts?
I'm still, I said before, cautiously optimistic. I am increasingly optimistic now. And I've said it, and I want to make the statement again right now. I feel like the United States is on the verge of a renaissance. I think things are going to
golden age, right? Golden age. That's what he's calling it.
That's what it is.
Golden age. Yep.
Yeah.
The key is do what?
What did you say?
the gold. Trump said this is the golden age. He sees
Golden age. Okay.
the golden age of America. But the key is building momentum and having somebody that can fill his shoes and continue to implement the same policies, as well as get this stuff passed through Congress in the next 2 years, turn these executive orders into laws of the land, because executive orders, as we see, can be flipped every 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to get past that somehow. To
we
make
gotta
this
get
stuff
we
more
gotta get
firm.
away from all these flippers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Trump's the one, is the only one that I've seen to be able to right this ship. But we've got to be able to have people in there ready to keep this thing going.
And I think we do. I do. I look
Yep.
at all the governors that we have. I look at the vice president that's currently there. I think they're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a lot of good people right now.
But
Yeah,
I'll say this though, in that same vein, I think in the past, Republicans have been pretty bad about putting their vote in and letting it ride and not speaking up, not really engaging with people. It's just you make your case every 4 years at the election, at the ballot box, right? And then you let it ride, to each their own, let everyone have their own opinion. And I'm not going to, argue with every person. I think it's because things have become more religious on the other side, on the leftist side.
Mhm.
It is a secular religion that has their own missionaries that are out there even today, pounding the pavement about how Trump didn't put his hand on the Bible. So regardless of him mentioning God and providence and all these other things throughout the whole inauguration, they're focused on selling that message that Trump he doesn't believe in God because he didn't put his hand on the Bible during the taking the oath of office. And then Elon Musk did a Nazi salute, and on and on and on and on and on. And if we just sit back, the normal, everyday, average Joes, and say nothing until the next election, then you could have the rug pulled out from under you. So it's not just about having the right man in the White House and the right VP and the right governor. I think you got to be out there combating the negative message, the negative press, and setting the record straight for the next 4 years.
Yep. You can't just you're right. You got to
All
talk.
of us.
You got to stand
All of
up.
us need to be proactive.
All of us.
Day to day. Yeah.
We need to talk the talk and walk the walk and not be afraid to do it.
And I'm not saying you have to be a missionary for Trump. I'm saying you have to
No,
Jackson's point earlier,
right.
stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself and what you believe. Don't fear man more than you fear God.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. There's Douglas Murray had some really good comments in discussion with Jordan Peterson, where he talked about the leftist current leftist ideology being a new religion. And he if not going to go, we don't have time to go into that right now, but if you're curious about it, look it up. Look up Douglas Murray talking about the new religion of leftism. And it makes a lot of sense.
Yep, for sure. All righty. Very good. Till next time. Y'all keep on striving.
Yep.